before we kind of dive into the content, engagement, activities, and discussions, we just want to kind of acknowledge that for some people, this might be a really challenging or heavy subject. And if that is the case, it's totally okay to step away from the screen, not engage in one of the activities, reach out and seek support from somebody that you trust. And we also just want to recognize that this seminar has been created to kind of share information, research, data, and raise awareness about mental health and teacher burnout. But at the very same time, it's super important to understand and recognize that mental health experiences are very unique, diverse, and can be very specific to each individual. And similarly, when discussing kind of self-care strategies or burnout in our profession, what works for one individual might not work for another. So we just want to make sure that's really clear and acknowledged right off the bat. And we also, of course, ask everyone to kind of respect the diversity and confidentiality of any kind of personal stories or engagement that takes place throughout our seminar. Thank you.
For context, we have pulled several quotes from an additional EdCan network article that we believe to speak to the prevalence of teacher burnout. With each of these, we have paired them with an additional quote from each of the three readings that speak to both the nature of the article and how they demonstrate a narrative of mental health and teaching. Specifically the relation to teacher burnout. I would like to draw specific attention to the quote from the Teaching in a Trauma-Sensitive Classroom article, which is, as human beings, the most important factor for our survival has been supportive relationships. So we chose this quote as the lack of supportive relationships could be between colleagues, students, and even administration. So this can speak to the disconnect and lack of supportive relationships in keeping teachers in the field, which again goes hand in hand with the statistic that 30% of new teachers leave the field within 5 years.
Okay, so we're gonna start off the seminar with a simple Minds On activity. So if you wanna click on the next slide, it's gonna take you to a QR code that you can scan on your phone, or you can pause the video and click on the Mentimeter link in Quarkus. Once you've accessed the Mentimeter, it's going to prompt you to write a word or two about what comes to mind when you hear self-care. So you can please take the time to pause the video here if you need some time to think about it, or if you would like to write something down very quickly, you can do so now as well. But the video will be continuous, so you might want to hit pause on this video just to give yourself some time to fill it out appropriately. One of the readings this week by Palmer, written in 2022, Why We Need to Care About Teacher Self-Care, discusses the high level of stress and burnout in teaching and the idea that there's a chronic use of empathy and emotional resources within our profession. So one of the four main ideas within this reading this week is professional burnout, and the idea of unrecognized burnout, which is when an individual is experiencing burnout but does not acknowledge it, and this lack of recognition can lead to harmful behaviors and patterns that intensify the problem for individuals. And some of the stress factors or contributors to this professional burnout is precarious work, multiple workloads, student demands, increased legislation, changing standards, few professional development opportunities, the lack of planning and support and resources. So then one of the importance of self-care was also talked about in this reading. And it talks about self-care being the skill and strategies used to maintain personal, familiar, emotional, and spiritual needs while attending to the needs and demands of other people. So there's the essential practice, which is self-care, and the idea that it's necessary for maintaining these needs, and then the organizational responsibility and the idea that self-care should be supported by the school culture and the workplace and the well-being's initiatives. So schools that we're placed at should take the time to organize days for us to really focus on our mental well-being and support us with our self-care journeys. Speaking of self-care journeys, that is one of the other main ideas of this reading. And it's just a reminder that self-care practices should be personalized to suit individual needs. So not everyone's self-care journey is going to look the same, and not all of our self-care choices are going to be the same as one another. Maybe I like to go for walks for my self-care, and maybe some other people like to read books as their method of self-care. So just knowing that it's not only an individual responsibility, but it's also an organizational one as well. And workplace well-being should be embodied within the K-12 system, and not just focusing on certain age groups. And then the last idea that I wanted to talk about from this reading was the idea of positive trends and challenges. So just the idea of like increasing awareness, and I think this is happening in some school boards more than others, but the idea that there could be conferences that teachers can be invited to without an extra cost or an extra by taking time off work and stuff like that. And there should be more school initiatives. So maybe there are breakfast opportunities for teachers to come into work early, and they don't have to stress about making breakfast for every Friday of a month or something like that. So just increasing awareness definitely starts not only within us, but within the school systems that we're in as well. And as well as the cultural barriers. I wouldn't necessarily say that this was a positive trend that was suggested, but more of a challenge in the sense that some teachers may be hesitant to engage in well-being initiatives just to the fear of judgment that can be held within this. So based off the last reading, we just wanted to insert this cute little cartoon here. Many people have probably heard of the analogy, you can't fill someone's cup if yours is empty. But we thought this was kind of a neat, cute little one that I haven't really seen before, where you have to take care of for yourself to be able to care for others. And it's the idea that you can't fill someone's watering can and water their flowers if your watering can's not full. So I thought that was a cute little analogy that I just wanted to share before we move on to the next reading.
We want to take an activity break to really reflect on our first reading. The idea is to explore the causes and prevention of teacher burnout with an option to respond to the why question of why are teachers more susceptible to burnout compared to professions in other fields, or to respond to the how question that we have selected, which is how can schools implement effective strategies to prevent teacher burnout and support teacher well-being. Please select the link on the slide to take you to the sticky note platform.
So this slide just kind of goes over some key points from an interesting reading from week 5 that focuses on kind of dance as a form of self-care. This reading brings together a variety of studies, points, research, and data, and also shares kind of a lived experience of one couple. Just to kind of offer a brief recap, I highly recommend actually reading and engaging with this reading, but just to provide some brief information, there was an individual who was in a car accident and then kind of managing depression, and he started dancing, and him and his partner shared these videos kind of on the internet, and this not only brought them joy through the dancing, but also millions of other people around the world, both watching and then engaging with the dance routines themselves. And so the science and research and kind of studies have shown us that dance can actually help alleviate symptoms of anxiety and depression. It can also work to improve people's moods, emotions, relieve stress. It can also help improve our self-image and our self-expression. And something I really enjoyed reading about was kind of, although this is obvious, dance is a non-verbal art form, it's really, really neat and powerful to think about the fact that dance then kind of makes the connection and builds the link between our mind and bodies, which comes with all sorts of positive benefits and just generally allows us to be kind of more embodied in ourselves. So these are just kind of like the positive benefits to dance. And something else super powerful about this as a form of self-care is that it can apply to a diverse kind of array of people. It's like accessible, and people are able to engage with it from all different types of like backgrounds, communities, identities. Yeah, so those are some of the positive benefits that were highlighted in this reading. All right, so now that we have kind of engaged with an overview, a brief overview of some of the positive kind of benefits of dance as a form of self-care, we would love it if you actually tried out a dancing activity on your own. However, we also recognize that this might not feel like possible or comfortable or even positive to all people. So if that's the case, please feel free to either sit out, maybe you want to draw a picture, do some quick yoga. We just encourage you to try practicing some form of self-care. And then after engaging with this activity, we have created a Google form as like an opportunity to just simply reflect on the dancing activity. And I just want to explicitly acknowledge kind of quickly that this is not meant to be a one-size-fits-all kind of approach to mindfulness in the classroom education or this seminar, but rather it's just a pause and some time and space to try something out that feels good for yourself. We just kind of made the connection to dance based on the sort of lived experiences, research, and data that had just been discussed, but no pressure at all. Attached to this slide are 2 potential resources for you to use to engage with the activity. However, you are absolutely not required to only engage with these dance videos. Please take a minute to look up one that feels best to you, that looks interesting. Try these out if you can't find something, or you could just try and engage with something totally different. The choice is yours.
And finally, for our article, Teaching in a Trauma-Sensitive Classroom, we first pulled the quote, "The most important factor for our survival is supportive relationships," which we had pulled this as it was essential for both the survival of students as well as teachers. In addition, trauma and adversity disrupt the development of attachment bonds that children need to develop their full potential. This can lead to difficulties in academic achievement, relationship skills, and emotional regulation. 3 important factors associated with resilience among all children and teens are a strong parent-child relationship, good cognitive skills, and the ability to self-regulate. And trauma can impair each of these factors. There is discussion of the social learning theory throughout the article. So this is where people learn from one another by observation, imitation, and modeling. This is relevant in the classroom where teachers' emotional support and behavior set an example for students and can foster healthy emotional skills and relationships. In addition, teachers become role models of healthy social and emotional behavior for teens to emulate. So this again demonstrates our analogy that we referenced earlier, where you cannot water someone else's plants if your own watering can is not full. Lastly, 3 crucial dimensions of teacher-student relationships among elementary age students are closeness, conflict, and dependency, which again sums up our overall message that this demonstrates how positive interactions can foster healthy emotional skills and reduce those negative behaviors.
So to wrap things up in a consolidation activity, we just wanted to use the the idea of rosebud and thorn. Some of you guys may have heard of it before, some may not. But the idea is that you're going to pick something that is something positive, and something that you want to work on, and something that you've tried but didn't really work out for you. So we just wanted to use this time to reflect on your rosebud and thorn. So specifically the idea that rose is going to be things that are working well for you in terms of taking care of your mental health as a teacher. The bud is going to be things that may not be working as well as you hoped, but is an opportunity for growth, and something that you would like to work on in the future and haven't really given up on the idea, just maybe need some tweaks towards your mental health, and using that work-life balance as a teacher. And thorn is the idea that things that you've tried but maybe didn't work for you in terms of self-care, and you don't really need to try it again because you know it's not a good choice for you in terms of taking care of your mental health as a teacher. So we want this to be an adaptable activity. So if you want to keep your reflection private, please do so. You can write it down in your journal. Maybe you can add it to your mind map for the class. But if you wanted to share, please reply back to this video with your rosebud and thorn along with your feedback. And it'd be really awesome to kind of learn and grow with you guys, and hear about your rosebud and thorn.
Thank you for attending our seminar.
And on the next couple slides, you'll see that there's other resources, which is just a few mental health resources for teachers, some book recommendations, and some websites and apps that are friendly for teachers to use. So maybe you just want to check those out.
We hope that you all enjoyed the seminar and that you have a great weekend with some self-care.
Bye.